This town meeting will come to order. Before we begin,
George, will you sign me in?
I'll need your attention. I know. Why is that? Can you hear me now? Good. Okay, we left off just before Article 44, but before we begin, I want to clarify a couple of procedural things. As you know, at the beginning of town meeting, I do read a short list of rules. And most of those rules were handed down to me by my predecessor, and I suspect most of those were handed down to him by his predecessor. And they seem like an efficient number of rules to explain to the town meeting. And one of those rules that I read, and have been reading now for years and years, deals with when a non-town meeting member can speak. And I ran into two problems last time, two separate problems. And what I read is the following rule. By tradition, any other voter of the town who may desire to address the town meeting must obtain in advance permission from the town moderator. Well, with the couple of problems I had any number of inquiries as to where this rule came from and where is it written down and why isn't it written down and what does the charter say and all that. And the charter, without reading it, basically says, now the charter is the legislation that was passed in 1927 to establish a representative form of town meeting for this town. And the charter says that based on conditions to be established from time to time by the voters of the town can speak, but they can't vote. So when I assumed this job 7 years ago, I didn't make up that tradition. A tradition is something that's handed down. It isn't written understanding of what the rule will be. And so I keep announcing that rule, and that is the rule. And most people seem to understand it, and from time to time people ask me in advance if they may speak on a particular article, and I've never refused them. I do verify that they are voters. And I think it's actually a pretty good rule because it gives the town meeting, which is not an open town meeting, representative town meeting, some control and some understanding over who's going to be speaking and are they really voters. Now, it's a somewhat difficult rule to enforce, and what happened was there was one person who spoke twice, and if you recall, now both Mr. Mullen, the town clerk, and I are up here trying to make sure that the rules are followed, and if Mr. Mullen sees somebody who's not a town meeting member, he will say, Mr. Ward, I don't think that person's a town meeting member. And that happened. And I said to the person, not to embarrass her, gee, can you tell me again from what precinct are you a town meeting member? And God bless her, she said, precinct 5. And so your moderator had a little dilemma, like, I'm sorry, ma'am, I don't believe you. Mr. Mullen is always right. I mean, I wasn't sure what to say. Mr. Mullen says, that's the one I should have used. But instead, I took the, let's not create a controversy. And she spoke, and she was, later somebody told her she wasn't supposed to be speaking, so she came up and she apologized. And I explained the rule to her. Then later in the evening, something else happened. One of our selectmen, Diane Agostino, asked if Patty Smith from the Warrant Committee could speak. Mr. Mullen again reminded me that she wasn't a town meeting member, and so I didn't recognize her. And with respect to that one, a number of people suggested that maybe it was getting late and that I was a little too curt, a little too disrespectful, and I have spoken with Selectman Agostino that if in fact it appeared that I was at all disrespectful in any way, that was not my intent, and I apologize to her if I created that impression. It was not my intention. I hold all of the selectmen in high regard, including Diane Agostino, and so I've apologized, and I want the body to know that. Now, that then led, of course, to a fair discussion with Selectman Agostino over the rule, and I explained to her that that is the rule, but that I wanted everybody, she and anybody else, to know that since the charter says that it's on the conditions established by the town meeting from time to time, that the town meeting, if they didn't like the rule the tradition had brought us, we could change it. And that can be, and probably only can be done by motion, because it says in our charter from time to time, so you really can't have a permanent rule, you can have a rule. Selectman Augustino told me that she wasn't going to bring that motion tonight, but that she would study the matter, and if she felt that the current rule was not the right rule, that she would let me know at some future time. So she has it under advisement. So that is the rule with respect to voters speaking. Now, the one other problem I ran into, not to burden you at the beginning of this town meeting with all my problems, since most of you probably don't care at all, but the extent to which my problems become your problems, they are relevant. Now, one other rule I read is that if you want to be recognized, you must go to a microphone, okay? Now, I don't mind when somebody signals me, I want to speak, okay? And my memory's usually pretty good, and I'll remember them, and I'll get everybody up there. But now and then I'm liable, especially if it's a long debate, and I see an opportunity to bring it to a vote, I might miss someone. The only way I can guarantee you that I won't miss you is if you're following the basic rule, you go to the microphone, and I can't miss you. All right? So I'm happy for those of you who like the informal, I want to be heard, and I see you over there, or I see you over here, and I signal, yeah, don't worry, I'll get to you. That's okay, but it can't be a guarantee, because I'm liable to miss it. All right? So with those clarifications as to procedure, we will now turn to Article 44, which is to see if the town of Milton will vote to elect an uncompensated board of sewer commissioners as provided in Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 41, Section 63, by electing on the official ballot at the annual election consisting of 3, 1 commissioner for 1 year, 1 for 2 years, and 1 for 3 years. And at each annual election thereafter, 1 for 3 years, and to act on anything relating thereto. The recommendation of the warrant committee is that the town vote no. Do you wish to be recognized, Mr. McDonald? No? Does anyone else wish to be recognized? Nobody wishes to be recognized. Okay. If you're voting aye, you're voting for the article. If you're voting with the recommendation of the warrant committee that the town vote no, you're voting no. All those in favor of the article say aye. Those opposed say no. No. The article is defeated. Article 45 is to see whether or not the town of Milton will vote to elect an uncompensated board of water commissioners as provided in Massachusetts General Laws, chapter missing, section missing, by electing on the official ballot the annual election consisting of 3 commissioners, 1 commissioner for 1 year, 1 for 2 years, and 1 for 3 years, and at each annual election thereafter, 1 for 3 years, and to act on anything relating thereto. The recommendation of the warrant committee is that the town vote no. Does anyone wish to address the article? No? All right. If you're voting aye, you're voting for the article. If you're voting no, you're voting with the recommendation of the warrant committee that the town vote no. All in favor of Article 45 say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. No. Noes have it, and the article is defeated. Article 46 is to see what sum of money the town will vote to appropriate for health and sanitation for the 12-month period beginning July 1, 1997, and to act on anything relating thereto. The recommendation of the warrant committee is that the town appropriate the amounts shown in the following tabulation under the heading recommended. And that's Board of Health, salary and wages, $79,692, general expenses, $4,675, contractual services, extermination, $1,158, animal inspection, $2,000, food inspection, $4,000, for a grand total of $91,525. Anyone wish to speak on this article? All those in favor of the recommendation of the warrant committee say aye. Aye. Those opposed? The recommendation of the warrant committee is unanimously adopted. Article 47 is to see what sum of money the town will vote to appropriate for the public library for the 12-month period beginning July 1, 1997, and to act on anything relating thereto. The recommendation of the warrant committee is that the town appropriate the amounts shown in the following tabulation under the heading recommended. The grand total is $647,629, and at this time I'll recognize Robert Varneren, the chair of the Library Trustees. Mr. Varneren, you're recognized.
I'm Bob Varneren, a town meeting member from Precinct 3 and chair of the trustees of the Milton Library. I make a motion to amend Article 47 to increase the library books and budget line from $30,302 to $62,244, and the total library budget from $647,629 to $679,571. The $31,942 increase is to be funded from the general fund.
Is there a second? All right, it's been moved and seconded. Do you wish to address the motion, Mr. Vanneran?
Mr. Moderator and colleagues, I want to make note that the headline in tonight's ledger were not mine. Book battle looms. I can assure you there's no armed encampment. We want the weight of the issue to provide the background for you to make your decision. I usually do not, and I prefer not to speak from a written text. But the objective of this amendment is too important, and I must keep my comments focused. From the beginning, funding for the Milton Library has come from two sources, from public and private. The issue here simply is how much funding should come from each stream to sustain a public free library. What are the basic necessities for public funding? What growth can we expect from private donation? The Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners sets requirements for public appropriation and for total expenditures. The state requires that the town's appropriation must increase by 2.5% each year. Public funding must support the entire operating expenses exclusive of the book budget. Funding for books and related materials must be a minimum of 13% of the expenditures and may come from public or private funding sources. The total town appropriation for books for the past 5 years, that is fiscal year 93 through fiscal 97, has been $163,000. And private donation, $235. That's 41% from public appropriation and 59% from private. Note the figure 167,000 differs from the figures in today's Patriot Ledger. Since talking to Mr. Madden last night, I added the $25,000 revolving book fund that you approved last year to the public funding of the library. During the past 5 years, the library has not maintained a reasonable level of excellence. It has not grown. Private funding this year, even with the revolving fund, has to be in excess of $30,000 to meet the minimum state requirements. The deterioration of our book collection is patently obvious to all. Students, for example, preparing a report in cancer will find the latest reference book was published in 1975. Subject areas such as science, finance, home renovation, arts, crafts, recreation, children's book have suffered similar obsolescence. Many patrons stop going to the library because it does not have the books they reasonably need. And these books should reasonably be in the library. Is this growth? Is this enrichment, I ask you? In addition, the total 5-year expenditure from private donation, $235,000, did not honor trust agreements and commitments to donors. Private funding, to be sure, it comes from grants, trust funds, and gifts. Grants, I have been a peer reviewer for a number of proposals for grants. Granting agency provide funds for generating greater excellence and growth, not to supply monies which institutional appropriations should provide. Institutions build the foundation, and grants raise the superstructure. Trust funds, regulation and trust agreement protect trust. The trustees of the library have a fiduciary obligation of the income for the library and put the remaining 25% into the principal. These funds must enrich the library, not salvage it as it has in the past years. Gifts? To be sure, the Friends of Milton Library raised $80,000. These funds will go a long way to fill some gaps created in the past years. It will not restore the collection fully. Some publications not purchased during the austere days have gone out of print and are not available. The cost of books has increased, has doubled, more than doubled since 1985. This substantial gift for the Friends was a bailout and a one-time contribution which we cannot anticipate every year. The more than 750 donors who funded this drive did indeed demonstrate their extreme loyalty and enthusiasm for the library, the urgency to upgrade it. Would these donors contribute again if erosion of the library continues? Their gifts should be a red-hot poker to us, goading us to action for this town meeting to increase the appropriation. Other gifts, such as $16,352 from the Friends of the Library in 1996, should have been expended for growth, not for CPR. The trustees thank the Friends for supplying funding every year since 1992 for the library to meet its minimum bare-bones standard. In brief, it should not be necessary for private donations to provide basic needs for a public institution. Or let's put it another way. Do donors give gifts to high-risk institutions or individuals? That is to say, those who do not meet their own needs first. Did you contribute to the library? The trustees present an urgent request for your consideration. We seek additional funds to preserve the integrity of our book collection and other educational materials. Presuming your approval to continue the revolving fund in Article 48, our request for additional $31,942 will ensure public funding to meet minimum bare-bones state requirements. It will free up private funds of more than $40,000 for enrichment next year. Take a moment to share a dream with me. What would have been the growth of the library these past 5 years if private donations, $235,000 or $47,000 per year, were invested in growth? We request this funding from the general fund, but realize the funds might not be available at July 1st. We ask for a commitment, if possible, from this meeting for when funds become available. Such allocation would not disrupt the town's financing strategies. It would not, and we don't want it to compete with any other budget. I cite a few statistics to support our request. Among comparable towns, Milton has had the lowest per capita expenditure in its total budget, the lowest expenditure for books. In the past year, to be sure, we've made some cosmetic changes from non-town funds to make the library a more welcome, a more convenient facility, a more user and staff-friendly environment. We have never seen more smiles on the faces of the staff and patrons. We would like to be sure to complete the air conditioning, to purchase new furniture, and to keep the library cleaner. We also resumed Sunday openings from mid-October to mid-April. We would like to extend Sunday openings. They were received enthusiastically. Yet this year we must give highest priority for the only reason for a library to exist: the book collection of reasonable excellence and an enhanced electronic information retrieval system. The Milton Library are essential educational institutions. The library is open 12 months a year and 7 days a week during the Sunday opening period. It is a resource for students and an enrichment for all of us. The public educational services of Milton, working together, must achieve reasonable levels of excellence. We, the trustees, have heard many complaints about our outdated book collection. We're responding to these reasonable needs of our users to improve the library. We hope you share our anxiety and appreciate the compelling need for the town appropriation to fully fund the minimum book budget mandated by the state. The trustees, staff, and patrons of the library ask you to vote your yes on this amendment. Thank you.
You're recognized.
Marion McKettrick from Precinct 1. I'd like to add just a few words about the book budget, about the books in the library, what I've learned about them during this past year while we've been doing this fundraising drive for the library for their books. There are a number of statistics that I think are kind of stunning and discouraging, really, about the library book budget. In 1980, when Proposition 2.5 was first implemented, the library had a book budget of about $52,000. Adjusting for inflation, that budget now would be about $132,000. That's how far behind we are in funding this book budget. And really the situation is somewhat ridiculous because, over the past 10 or 15 years, I've worked with PTOs, I've worked with the schools, and they constantly talk about the importance of reading. They're constantly doing projects to encourage children to read. That we're constantly talking about how important it is to read at home in front of our children, to put it out in front of them that this is something that they'll be doing all their lives and using all their lives. And yet we're not funding our public library, we're not funding the book budget. A few other statistics that might help you in looking at this problem. If we spend $92,000 on books, we replace about 3% of the library's collection in 1 year. Just 3%. That figure is considered a minimum amount of spending. To achieve that figure in the budget before you, we'd be spending about $59,000 of public appropriated money, including the revolving fund. We'd have to put in that budget money that we raised by fundraising. We'd have to put some trust funds in there. And we'd also have to put in some of the incentive grant that the state gives to the library. That doesn't leave anything to add to the $92,000. And that's not enough to maintain a decent book collection. So the problem we have here, I agree with what Bob said. I think that, it's important to provide the base budget from public funds. But the real problem is we're not even spending enough money on books anyway. Even when we add all these funds together, because of the low amount of public appropriation, we're just not funding the book budget properly. So we had to do a fundraising drive and raise $80,000 just to put back in the library collection things that have not been added over the last few years. Just for example, it costs $30,000 a year just to maintain the reference collection. So the entire appropriation for last year would have to be used for that purpose. So obviously there isn't enough money to buy current valuable books, things that are getting great book reviews, things that are all of the books that are on the bestseller list, and all of the books that our students need in order to do their classroom assignments. I would like to see a motion before this body to take this money from the reserve fund, because I would like to see a specific appropriation for this amount. I think just to propose that we'd like to add to the budget without specifying where the money is going to come from is a problem. And I haven't consulted with the library trustees on this, so if one of the trustees wants to tell me they don't want to do that, they can. My suggestion would be to put forward a new motion, which would be that this money would come from the reserve fund.
I accept the friendly amendment.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Varner, and we can do it. We can have a motion to amend your amendment. Or do you want to change your amendment so that it reads to be funded from the reserve fund?
Reserve fund.
That's not going to work either, because you have to take it from the appropriation. That's not going to work either, is it? Hang on, nobody move. It's not an unfunded. They really want take it from the money. They want to reduce the appropriation. All right. And if somebody disagrees with this, they can. I'll recognize them. But here's the dilemma. The present motion is to increase that line by $31,942 to be funded from the general fund. Well, that just basically means that that's going to go to the tax levy, all right? And which will put us over on the tax levy. And the last town meeting member, Marion McKettrick, suggested that it should come from the reserve fund, but the only sense I can make of that is that it will come in the following sense, that the amount that was appropriated for the reserve fund would be reduced when we get to the reserve fund. Otherwise, I don't see how you do it, Marion. Is that what you had in mind?
My motion would be to reduce the appropriation for the reserve fund by the amount requested by the library trustees,
All right,
the
now,
additional amount.
obviously, we can't do that till we get to the reserve
That's
fund.
right.
So I would think that the motion is in proper order. So if the town votes it, they're not binding themselves, but we will be looking for a spot to reduce somebody's budget, and what you're suggesting is that you might eke that out come the reserve fund time. So I would leave the motion the way it is and take that as a rather interesting possibility, and we'll see what develops. Anyone else wish to speak? Marge Jeffries, you're recognized. This is on the motion to amend now. Recommendation of the warrant for the additional $31,000.
Marjorie Jeffries, library trustee and town meeting member from Precinct 5. Since I've been a library trustee, I've been working to make the library, its services, its activities, and its financing visible to the public in every way I can. So those of you who still have the handout that was handed out on days and days ago, whenever that was, at the beginning of this town meeting, you will see that the first page of it shows you a bunch of figures. Don't worry, I'm not going to go over all these figures. But I would like to point out that this is the year of the book. And, you know, in China they have the year of the dragon and the year of the dog and whatnot. So for Milton, this is the year of the book. There are three aspects this year, and I hope this year only, to this book budget. I'm only talking about the book budget. The first is the catch-up operation, which Marion McKettrick and Susanna Place did so wonderfully to raise $80,000 via the Friends for the catch-up operation. And you heard her and you heard Mr. Vorman speak about how we needed to replace books because we needed to catch up. The second aspect of the book budget is the annual need of the library to buy its books and materials basic to community library service. This is where the town funding comes in place. Your page of statistics, that would be the town appropriation for books, and as Marion McKettrick has said, in 1980 we had $52,000 as a book appropriation, and in 1996 there was $29,000. At the same time, books are going up. At the same time, we're trying to get things for computers, audio tapes, videotapes, stuff that the library didn't even have a while ago. So the library book budget is receiving less money from the town than it received in 1980. Yes, we have spent the required amount to get the 13% that is mandated by the Board of Library Commissioners. So what's the problem? You can see that we are spending 13% of our appropriation for books, and if you look at the bottom of this statistics page, a little bit to the right column, you'll see that other towns spend more and a more percentage, so that we are in the very lowest percents. We are in the lowest of all these categories. Yes, we have other funds at our disposal to make up that list. And in the top of this of the page, you will see that there's a 1996 allocation of the materials budget, which shows the sources of the funds for the budget, which shows the town appropriation, the library trust funds, the Friends of the Library, and the state incentive grant. That was how we made our 13%. But most of the libraries make their 13% by only town appropriation. It is the obligation of the town to provide the meat and potatoes of the book collection, the fundamentals that are necessary. This minimum funding does not keep the collection current because your library is an educational source for everybody, for all ages, not just students. The public library is an extension of the educational system of our town. We are very grateful to the Warrant Committee for the time and trouble that members have taken to understand the library budget and its needs. And they have raised our book budget 2.5%, as they have done with other departments. But that appropriation just doesn't work. At this time, we had to be in the catch-up role. The third aspect of the book fund are the extras. We are fortunate to have gifts and grants and trust funds, but they were not given to the town to be used instead of town funding. They were given for extras. And the library has many, many extras that we need. So to use the words of Alan MacDonald, what is the problem? The problem is the library book collection is out of date and skimpy. What is the bottom line, as they say in the business world? The bottom line is the problem. Not enough money to prevent the collection from falling behind. What is the cost benefit? The cost is spending over $600,000 for an institution that many people are not using because it does not provide the books that they need. The benefit can't be measured in numbers. We can't know how many vote with their feet and go to other libraries. Anecdotally, for the last 5 years, many people have told me they don't use our libraries because it doesn't have the books they want. What is the benefit? Up-to-date information before the test the next day, before you plant your garden, before you remodel your kitchen, before you invest in stocks and bonds. Individuals have done their part. This year, many, many, many people gave to the Read for Your Life campaign. In past years, other people have given us trust funds. The state has given us an incentive grant for our discretionary use. Now it's the responsibility of the town to fully fund the book budget this year and in future years to enable us to use these gifts as they were intended to be used and to give the town a community library with a book collection that meets all the needs of its citizens. A library we can be proud of.
Thank you. Mr. Buchanan, you're recognized.
Paul Buchanan, Precinct 4, Library Trustee. There's another dimension of this problem which I think town meeting ought to be aware of. If town meeting votes against this amendment and the main motion, it's tantamount for what should be a town appropriation. Disregard the donor's intention. Disregard the donor's direction. Do this, I ask you, how much longer?
With respect to the motion to amend. Mr. McDonald, you're recognized.
First, since Ms. Jeffries referred to a statement I made last week that one of the tests that we used on the Warrant Committee was to ask, what's the problem for which this is intended to be the solution? I want to make sure I give credit where credit is due. That came to be known on our committee as the Ann test, after Ann White, one of the members of the committee. It wasn't my test, but it's a very good one. The recommendation of the Warrant Committee is the town vote no on the amendment. I think this is a case where it's important, and I'm referring to the handout that Ms. Jeffries referred to look at the small print, and to the credit of all the speakers, I think they've referred to it. The small print has to do with the fine revolving fund that town meeting established last year. It's a note under the first column of numbers on the first page of the handout. What we did last year by creating the revolving fund was saying that the money that previously had gone into the general fund from the fines collected for overdue books would go into a revolving fund and could be spent by the library. And I think it was an amendment attached on the floor of town meeting last year that said specifically for the books, without further appropriation by town meeting. So what we essentially did was take another $25,000 that would otherwise be in the general fund and could be allocated to address whichever other needs of the town we saw fit, and add that to the money that the town was appropriating in the books line in the library appropriation. And when you take that into account, the amount of town resources that the town meeting last year dedicated to the books in the library was increased by 84.6%, which is a substantial increase. I don't think anyone can claim anything else close to that from last year's town meeting. This year, we're recommending in the books line of the regular library appropriation under this article a 2.5% increase. And in the next article, we're recommending that we increase the amount of money that's allowed to flow through that revolving fund into the books by 20%, up from $25,000 to $30,000. If you put those two numbers together, the total amount by which we're recommending that we increase town resources devoted to books at the library is 10.5%, which again is one of the biggest increases that we're recommending. We're cognizant that this is of the arguments that have been made, and we appreciate the issue. We believe that we've made a substantial recommendation towards the books in this package. It's better than most other needs of the town got in the process, and we believe it's as good a recommendation as we can give them, given all the competing needs of the town. I think I'm obliged to speak a little bit in defense of the reserve fund now that that's been put on the table. And the reserve fund may be one of these appropriations that only a warrant committee can love. I mean, it's hard to speak passionately for the reserve fund in the way that parents have spoken about class size and people can speak about books. But you can grow to love it when it's one of these things that if it's not there when you want it, it can be quite a problem, and it's one of our responsibilities to make sure that there is a reserve fund for unforeseen and unusual expenditures. And I might say that if we accept this amendment, and this year or next year, we'd be 30 grand in the hole right now with 2 months left to go. Maybe we won't get another April 1st storm like we got this year, but something happens every year, and I think it's important that as dispassionate as it may be, that the reserve fund not be reduced. We put as much thought into the number that should go into the reserve fund as part of the package. Making sure you're covered for unforeseen contingencies is part of the responsibility, and we believe we have to keep that reserve fund at a decent level. So the warrant committee recommends a no vote on the amendment.
Does anyone else wish to speak to the motion? All right, we'll go to a vote on the motion. The motion is to increase the library books and related budget line from $30,302 to $62,244, and the total library budget from $647,629 to $679,571. The $31,942 increase is to be funded from the general fund. All those in favor of the motion to amend, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. The noes have it, and the motion is defeated. We'll go now to discussion on the main motion. All right. All right, it was close. All right, we're going to have a stand-up count. That's enough. You may be seated. Section 1, tellers. Ellen O'Sullivan and Charles Winchester in A. A will also count the selectmen's table, Mr. Winchester. Okay. Center section, Natalie Albers and Joseph Murphy. We'll count the center section, including the stage. Section 3, Tom Joseph and Karen Schroeder. We'll count Section C, and the warrant committee table. All the ayes, please stand. Pardon me? Natalie Albers and Joseph Murphy. Joe Murphy is in the aisle over there.
No.
Your county select. Over your county. Easy, Joe. You all right? All right, eyes down, nose up. You all set, Charlie? Charlie, we're all set over here? And hang on, stay standing. Center section still counting.
I could have some fun with that. But I'm trying to stay out of things. If need be, I could have some fun with it. Well, you know, create a seat for yourself.
You all set, Joe? Okay, everybody sit down.
I hope you take care.
Mr. Winchester, the count from Section A.
Yes, 20, no 36.
Section B, Mr. Murphy.
Yes, 41, no 52.
Section C.
Yes, 18, no 44.
12. 79, 132. 79 ayes, 132 nays, and the motion is in fact defeated as verified by the count. All right, so we will now go to the main motion. Does anyone else wish to speak to the budget as recommended by the Warrant Committee? No? All those in favor of the recommendation of the Warrant Committee under Article 47 say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Recommendation of the Warrant Committee is unanimously adopted. Article 48 is to see what sum of money the town will vote to authorize the Board of Library Trustees to expend during the fiscal year beginning July 1, 1997, for the purpose of purchasing new books and other related materials pursuant to Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half of the Massachusetts General Laws, from the revolving fund established by vote of the May 6, 1996 annual town meeting, under Article 31 for revenues collected from fines for overdue materials and from charges for lost or damaged materials, and to act on anything relating thereto. Before getting to the recommendation of the Warrant Committee, and I hope Mr. Kaufman or somebody, can we have a report from last year? Mr. Varner, and you're recognized. This, as I explained earlier, I'm going to try to get these reports in the annual report, but we are required to have a report of what happened last year under our revolving funds.
As of December 31st, 1966, the library received $12,879.05 in fine money deposited into the library revolving fund. As of December 30, 1996, the library spent $12,453.03 from the library revolving account towards the purchase of books and related materials.
Thank you, Mr. Vinerin. The recommendation of the Warrant Committee is that the town vote yes to authorize the Board of Library Trustees to expend up to and including $30,000 during the fiscal year beginning July 1, 1997, for the purpose of purchasing new books and other related materials pursuant to Chapter 44, Section 53E 1/2 of the Massachusetts General Laws from the revolving fund established by vote of the 1996 annual town meeting under Article 31 for revenues collected from fines for overdue materials. Does anyone wish to speak to the main motion? All those in favor of the recommendation of the Warrant Committee say aye. Aye. Those opposed, the recommendation of the Warrant Committee is adopted unanimously. Article 49 is to see if the town will vote to rescind the borrowing authorization voted by the May 1995 annual town meeting under Article 60 regarding the library construction. Recommendation of the Warrant Committee is that the town vote to rescind the borrowing authorization voted by the May 1995 annual town meeting under Article 60 regarding library construction. Does anyone wish to speak to the motion? All those in favor of the recommendation of the Warrant Committee say aye. Those opposed, the recommendation of the Warrant Committee is unanimously adopted. Article 50, to see if the town will vote to rescind the transfer of care, custody, and control of certain land on Walnut and Clapp Streets to the library trustees voted under Article 19 of the November 2, 1994 adjourned special town meeting, and to act on anything relating thereto. Recommendation of the Warrant Committee is that the town rescind the transfer of care, custody, and control of certain land on Walnut and Clapp Streets to the library trustees voted under Article 19 of the November 2, 1994 adjourned special town meeting. Does anyone wish to speak to the recommendation of the Warrant Committee? All those in favor of the recommendation of the Warrant Committee say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Recommendation of the Warrant Committee is unanimously adopted. Article 51 is to see what sum of money the town will vote to appropriate for the maintenance and improvement of the cemetery for the year beginning July 1, 1997, and to act on anything relating thereto. And before we get to the recommendation of the Warrant Committee, I recognize Mr. McDonald for a change to the recommendation of the Warrant Committee.
Changes on page 54 in the trailer language. You'll remember a week ago when I started by going through some changes on the front page of inside front cover, that there were some changes in the cemetery numbers, and we have to make those now. The first sentence under the table, and that to meet said appropriation, the sum of, it should be $249,827. And if you go down then to the line that says proceeds from the sale of burial rights, instead of $70,000, it should read $84,000. And then the math works.
Those changes are accepted. So the recommendation of the Warrant Committee is that the town appropriate the amount shown in the following tabulation under the heading recommended. The total on page 54 of the warrant is $453,827, and that to meet said appropriation, the sum of $249,827 be raised from the tax levy of the fiscal year, and that the balance of the appropriation be transferred from available funds as follows: proceeds from the sale of burial rights, $84,000; income from cemetery perpetual care fund, $120,000. And the department is hereby authorized to sell or exchange old equipment to furnish additional funds for new equipment. Does anyone wish to speak on the motion? Yes, sir.
David Marr, Precinct 3 Town Meeting Member, Cemetery Trustee. I felt it incumbent to let the other fellow town meeting members know a little bit about the cemetery, and I will be brief. With respect to earlier in the town meeting several days ago, there was a question under Article 9 with the appropriation request for a new dump truck for $31,795. That, as you all know, fell under the capital appropriation request. The proceeds from the burial rights, as you see, is $84,000, but the larger number on the income from the cemetery perpetual care fund of $120,000. These guidelines set by the state on how these funds can be used limit the use of the perpetual care fund solely and strictly to the operations of the cemetery, and any type of capital appropriations have to be met through town meeting meeting. So just wanted to make a clarification on that so that you know that your trustees are bound by state law as to how those funds from the perpetual care fund can be used. Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak to the recommendation of the Warrant Committee? All those in favor of the recommendation of the Warrant Committee under Article 51 say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Recommendation of the Warrant Committee is unanimously adopted. Article 52 is to see if the town will vote to accept the following gifts to the Milton Cemetery for the planting of flowers and placing of decorations and the beautification of the Milton Cemetery as specified by the donor or bequest. Helen and Chester Martin on Lot 62-3-1, $1,600. Robert Thomas, Lot 775-1, $1,000. Mildred F. Kelly, single graves 33 and 34, row F, section B, $1,000. And to act on anything relating thereto. The recommendation of the Warrant Committee is the town vote yes. Does anyone wish to speak to the main motion? All those in favor of the recommendation of the Warrant Committee say aye. Aye. Those opposed, recommendation of the Warrant Committee is unanimously adopted. Article 53 is to see what sum of money the town will vote to appropriate for the 12-month period beginning July 1, 1997 for the operation of parks and recreation, and to see if the town will vote to authorize the continued use of the Park and Recreation Revolving Fund pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 18 of the general bylaws of the town, and to act on anything relating thereto. Before we get to the recommendation of the Warrant Committee, we need a report on last year's use of the revolving fund, I think. Or is this brand new? Is it, Mr. McDonald, is this a new revolving fund, or do we have?
No, but it's under a different statute.
All right. Do we need a report on this one? No, no report on this. So the recommendation of the Warrant Committee is that the town vote to authorize the continued use of the Park and Recreation Revolving Fund pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 18 of the general bylaws of the town, and to appropriate the amounts shown in the following tabulation under the heading recommended. And that's total of $239,779. Does anyone wish to speak to the recommendation of the Warrant Committee under Article 53? All those in favor of the recommendation of the Warrant Committee say aye. Aye. Those opposed, recommendation of the Warrant Committee is unanimously adopted. Article 54 is to see what sum of money the town will vote to authorize the Board of Park Commissioners to expend during the fiscal year beginning July 1, 1997 for the purpose of maintenance and repair of town parks and recreational facilities pursuant to Chapter 44, Section 53E, 1/2 of the Massachusetts General Laws from the revolving fund established by vote of March 1994 annual town meeting under Article 37 for fees received from the use of town parks and recreational facilities and act on anything relating thereto. In this one, we do need a report. Is there somebody prepared to give that report? From the Parks Commissioner? Yes. Barbara Brown, you're recognized.
Good evening. The Board of Park Commissioners respectfully submits to this town meeting the following report on our two revolving accounts. For fiscal 1996, our recreation revolving accounts deposits totaled $66,044.82, and our expenses totaled $50,967.04. Also, in FY96, our second revolving account, the Park Rental Revolving Account, had deposits totaling $4,860, and our expenditures totaled $1,650. For FY97, July through December of 96, our recreation revolving account had deposits of $41,176.25 and expenses totaling $48,348.74. Our rental revolving account had deposits of $2,850 and expenditures of $2,990. The recreation revolving account, which was approved by this body at a special town meeting in November of 1992, allows the Park Department to operate all of our recreational programs on a self-supporting basis. Within the past few years, we have expanded and revamped existing programs and now offer a wider variety of recreational opportunities for the young and the young at heart. Your Recreation Director, Dave Perdios, has done a terrific job at identifying exciting and profitable programs for our community. Our ID program offers recreational and social opportunities for children in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. It is extremely popular, with an enrollment this year of over 900 students townwide. This wonderful program's success is due in large part to the volunteer board of parents who give countless hours of organizing and chaperoning our events. The Park Rental Revolving Account was also approved at our March 1994 town meeting and allows the department to set and charge a fee for users of our facilities. In turn, these fees are returned to the users in the form of improvements and general maintenance at our parks and fields. The Board of Park Commissioners and the Park Department personnel appreciate the support of the town meeting members and all the members of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara Brown. The recommendation of the Warrant Committee is that the town vote to continue the revolving fund created under Chapter 44, Section 53E 1/2 of the Massachusetts General Law, established by vote of the March 1994 annual town meeting under Article 37, to authorize the Park Department to utilize fees received from the use of town parks and recreational facilities for the purpose of maintenance and repair of town parks and recreational facilities, and to limit expenditures in the fiscal year beginning July 1, 1997 to $20,000. Does anyone wish to speak to the recommendation of the Warrant Committee? All those in favor of the recommendation of the Warrant Committee say aye. Those opposed, the recommendation of the Warrant Committee is unanimously adopted. Article 55, and this requires a two-thirds vote, by the way, is to see if the town will vote to transfer the care, custody, and control of the football field and track at Brooks Field, Guile Road, from the Board of Park Commissioners to the School Committee, to authorize the Board of Selectmen on behalf of the town to petition the General Court to enact any required legislation which approves said transfer and to act on anything relating thereto. And Mr. Feroli, do you wish to be recognized for the purpose of an amendment? I believe.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Aldo Ferroli, Town Meeting Member in Precinct 9. I would add on the last line after the word transfer, the language, with conditions and safeguards for the abutting residential district.
Okay, the motion, I'll take that as a motion. Is it seconded? All right, it's been moved and seconded to amend the recommendation of the Warrant Committee so that after the last word in the recommendation of the Warrant Committee, the word transfer, one would add the words, quote, with conditions and safeguards for the abutting residential district. you wish to speak to the motion, Mr. Furley? You're recognized.
Could I learn what the recommendation of the warrant committee is?
Yes, it's recommended.
I read it in advance.
Okay, okay, I didn't read it, you're right. The recommendation of the warrant committee is that the town vote to transfer the care, custody, and control of the football field and track at Brooksfield Gile Road from the Board of Park Commissioners to the school committee, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen on behalf of the town to petition the general court to enact any required legislation which approves said transfer. That's the recommendation of the warrant committee, and you would add the additional language with conditions and safeguards for the abutting residential district. So you may speak to your motion.
Oh, they haven't taken a vote on it yet.
Haven't taken it? No, but first you have to amend.
They had it in advance, you see.
No,
Okay.
we have to have motions to amend their motion before we have a vote. So your motion
All
has
right.
priority.
Okay. The reason for that is that certain agreements were reached between the people, the abutting people, and that would be Home Inc. mainly, and also Precinct 4 is involved here. The abutting precincts are 4 and 9, and I'm calling for town meeting members in both those precincts to come and to the assistance of this thing. Not that it's I disapprove of it, but at the same time to be certain that conditions are followed. Already a couple of these conditions, and here they are on a piece of paper. It's quite a bit. And some of those things are already, will have to change already because the park department is the one who did this, and they make the appointment of a review committee. And since the selectmen in this article put together something in the petition to the general court, in the same way that the park department amended the Article 37, was it the landfill, and added 2 fields, I'm asking that the neighborhood be protected and that the legislature knows that that will be done, because this is just not an average change. It's a major change from a zoning standpoint. Now, perhaps zoning is not involved with public property, but there has been a cooperative effort in this regard from the very beginning, which put the land in the town's hands for recreation fields. But nobody anticipated that lights would be involved. Now, here are 60-foot structures and that sort of thing. And I thought, well, there should be something that goes to the legislature that they will look at. And I was told that perhaps this is vague. I don't think it's vague. It's probably vague to a certain extent, but it's a case where if the Board of Selectmen reviewed this, put it together, and whatever changes that they would like to make, and then submit it, that to impress the legislators of their intent to exercise what I'm asking for, and that is the protection of Precinct 4 and 9, mainly the close abutters, Home Inc. Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak to the motion to amend the recommendation of the warrant committee? We get the position of the warrant committee and the motion to amend. Mr. McDonald, you're recognized.
The warrant committee recommends that we vote no on this amendment. There are 2 principal reasons. It fails the and test. It's not clear what the problem is for which this is the solution. It's the use of the facility doesn't change at all by virtue of this article. And then our other concern is that it is too vague. It's not clear what would be done. And we find it too vague as an amendment. So we recommend a no vote on the amendment.
Does anyone else wish to speak to the motion to amend? Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Moderator, Catherine Shea, Precinct 2. I just have one question. If they transfer the care over, does the budget then come out of the school committee to maintain it? Or who is going to pay for maintaining it? Will it be parks or school?
Well, Mr. Desmond, can you answer that question? Can you take that out of your budget?
Just to answer that question, we have not increased our budget to maintain that field. Jim Foster, who is in charge of our buildings and grounds, feels that our maintenance men will be able to handle that, much like they do now with the backfield at Pierce. With this transfer, we will no longer be taking care of the backfield behind Pierce Middle School, so we will just be transferring one lawn to another, cutting one lawn rather than the one behind. Also, maintenance, a lot of the maintenance cost, and one of the main reasons for doing this is the Milton High School parents of student athletes, the Boosters Association, has sunk probably well over $15,000 into the actual football soccer field in the last 2 years since the schools and the parks have agreed to change our maintenance plan up there. And the Boosters have been really the main supporters and taking care of the main cost of maintaining that field. So as the parks now have permits for fields, we're lucky enough to have the Boosters parents paying the main cost. They paid $8,000 last summer to crown that field, which was very expensive and an item that we didn't want to have to bring to town meeting, and luckily the student athletes' parents came forth and did it. Also, the track was taken care of under a special town meeting article, and it went out for bid. The low bidder was $2,700 higher than what the actual town meeting approved. The Boosters picked up the extra cost so we could get it done for this track season. So the maintenance costs are going to be worked out with our student athlete parents, the Milton Boosters.
Thank you, Mr. Desmond. You recognize me?
Okay, thank you. Then maybe I just have another question that is probably ahead of itself, but it's tied into the next article, which is, then why is the field behind Pierce being turned over to the Park Commission?
All right, can you hold that question till the next article? Because we're on just an motion to amend that's much narrower.
Okay.
And just to keep order here. But please go back and make sure you ask that question. Do you want to speak again on your motion, Mr. Feroli? You're recognized.
Just to rebut the warrant committee, respectfully, these are definite conditions that would be submitted with selectmen's request for a transfer. These are definite. How vague could they be?
Okay.
These are all in writing.
All right. Do you want to speak again, Mr. Desmond? You're recognized.
I'd just like to respectfully disagree with Mr. Feroli. The school committee agrees with the warrant committee that this is just a transfer. There is no change with what the field is now being used for. The field will still be for the student athletes and youth of the town. We're not changing the use of the field at all, which basically we're changing the maintenance and who's paying for it. Thank you.
All right.
I'm not talking about use.
All right, Mr. Feroli, you're recognized. This is the third time, so do you want to add? No? Do you want to be recognized again, Mr. Feroli? No? Okay. We'll proceed to a vote then. It's a motion to amend the recommendation of the warrant committee by adding after the word transfer the words with conditions and safeguards for the abutting residential district. All those in favor of the motion to amend the recommendation of the warrant committee say aye. Those opposed? No. The motion to amend the recommendation of the warrant committee is defeated. We're now on the recommendation of the warrant committee. Does anyone else wish to speak to the recommendation of the warrant committee? I need a 2/3 vote. All those in favor of the recommendation of the warrant committee say aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. The recommendation of the warrant committee is unanimously adopted, and so that carries the 2/3, Mr. Mellon. Article 56 is to see if the town will vote a 99-year lease agreement of $1 a year between the Board of Park Commissioners and the school committee for the athletic field directly behind the Pierce Middle School. The recommendation of the warrant committee is that the town vote to allow the school committee to lease to the Board of Park Commissioners for a period of 99 years for $1 per year the athletic field directly behind the Pierce Middle School, provided that the lease agreement stipulate that upon reasonable notice by the school committee to the Board of Park Commissioners that said land is needed for school expansion, said lease shall become null and void. Does anyone wish to speak to the article? All those in favor of the recommendation of the warrant committee say aye. Aye. Those opposed, recommendation of the warrant committee is unanimously adopted. Article 57 is to see if the town will vote to establish a revolving fund pursuant to Chapter 44, Section 53E, 1/2 of the Massachusetts General Laws to authorize the school committee to utilize the fees received from night athletic events held at Brooks Field for the electric bills and maintenance of the lights at this field, and determine a limit of $20,000 as the amount which can be expended from this fund in the fiscal year beginning July 1, 1997. The recommendation of the warrant committee is that the town vote to establish a revolving fund to authorize the school committee to utilize the fees received from night athletic events held at Brooks Field for the electric bills and maintenance of the lights of this field, and determine a limit of $5,000 as the amount which can be expended from this fund in the fiscal year beginning July 1, 1997. Does anyone wish to speak to the recommendation of the warrant committee? Mr. Desmond, you're recognized.
Mr. Moderator, Frank Desmond, member of the school committee and town meeting member, Precinct 10. The only problem I have is the recommendation of the warrant committee of $5,000. We asked that it be $20,000, and I'm sorry for the late timing of this, but we really didn't get a good chance to debate this with the warrant committee. The reason for asking for $20,000 for maintenance was that not only is this money to pay for the electricity, but it is also to keep, in case of taking care of electrical problems over a period of years, new fixtures. Light bulbs right now cost $120 per light bulb up there. So we're not only charging for each event for electricity, we're charging a small fee for maintenance to be put away. So at some point in time, 10 or 15 years down the road, that one of those structures or part of has to be replaced. The money will be available in the revolving account rather than have to come to town meeting for it, and it will self-perpetuate the lights at Brooks Field.
Are you making a motion, Mr. Desmond? Are you moving to amend the recommendation of the warrant committee to change the limit of $5,000 to some other amount?
Yes, I'd like to amend it to be $20,000, please.
Want to go the whole way? Probably have a better chance if you, well, never mind. Somewhere in the middle? No?
Sure.
That's the moderator's stand. All right, you want the full 20,000.
Full 20.
Determine a limit of $20,000 as the amount which can be expended.
Right.
Is there a second? All right, it's been moved and seconded to change the warrant committee's recommendation. The warrant committee's limit is $5,000. The school committee's motion is to amend that to $20,000. Anyone wish to speak to the amendment? If not, we'll get the recommendation of the warrant committee, and you probably have to... All right, we'll have to wait a second here now.
Mr. Moderator,
Oh, yes, you...
could I just ask a question?
Yes, you may. You're
Margaret
recognized.
Nelson, Precinct 7.
All right, everybody be quiet now. Yes, you're recognized, ma'am.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm just curious how the warrant committee's recommendation can change the figure from the figure given in the original article. I mean, they give figure amounts in their recommendations when the article is submitted as what some town meeting will vote, but this one has a figure in it already. How can they change that?
Because it's within the scope of the article, and if they don't want to go the full amount, they can recommend something else.
So isn't that an amendment to the article?
No, well, here's how it works. Basically, and it goes to my opening remarks, the recommendation of the warrant committee is actually a motion that is presented for action under the article by the town meeting. And instead of going through that drill of actually having a motion, what we do is, when you have a recommendation of the warrant committee, it's assumed that the chairman has moved it and some other member of the warrant committee has seconded. So every recommendation of the warrant committee is before you as a motion to adopt that recommendation as the action of the town under the article. And it doesn't have to be just, it does not have to track word for word the article as long as it is within the scope of the article. Okay, if that's not clear, come and see me because it's very interesting, but that's how we do it. Okay, recommendation of the Warrant Committee.
Mr. Monterey?
Whoops. Mr. Lovely.
A point of information, perhaps Alan could explain it to us. We've been chatting about the mechanisms of a revolving fund, and perhaps you could clarify how it works. Just by way of hypothetical, if, for example, we collected fees for night athletic events in the ensuing fiscal year of $15,000, do I understand that to be that we could put the $15,000 in the revolving account, but could only spend $5,000, and that the 10 would carry forward to a subsequent year? And if that is the case, what does it matter?
I don't think that's the case.
20 or 5.
It's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, someone, that the additional goes to the general fund.
That's what I thought, but I was disabused of that
But we'll get the definitive answer
wise
among
men to my
our
left.
town officials. Mr. Cronin, is that correct? Does the additional go to the general fund? No?
Not according to the consensus down here off the stage on the front of the
Okay,
room.
well.
Consensus is that it carries forward.
It stays in the revolving fund, but you can't spend it.
May I address this question to the moderator, that you might address it to the Warrant Committee? If that is the case,
Right.
then what is the purpose behind the Warrant Committee's recommendation of a no vote, since in the unexpected occurrence of costs being in excess of $5,000, we'll find ourselves in a situation of being in a deficit position without the funds legitimately authorized to be spent, and yet at the same time having the funds in the revolving account for the purpose for which it was intended in the first place?
All right, well, you may get that answer when we get the recommendation of the Warrant Committee, which we will get right now. Mr. McDonald, you're recognized.
The recommendation of the Warrant Committee is to vote no on the amendment. Let me explain the logic of why we went down to $5,000, but first let me say that this is the kind of revolving fund that we like. That when I first came on the Warrant Committee, we had a fair amount of focus on revolving funds, and a lot of people were proposing them. And what we were looking for were ones that created a new service in town and a mechanism for funding that new service out of new revenues. In other words, not out of the taxpayers. We weren't looking so much for things where that didn't create incentives to provide new services with new funds, and this is exactly the right kind of revolving fund, that you can put these lights up because you can use a revolving fund to pay for them. One of the problems is that there's no separate meter up there, and it's not clear how you're going to be able to tell how much of the electricity is actually running those lights. And in trying to get a sense of where the $20,000 comes from, and we didn't get a good sense of where it came from, we figured that if you have about 10 events up there under the lights, which was the number that was kicking around, that's about $2,000 per event, and that seemed expensive to us. And here the point that Mr. Lovely raises is very interesting. It seemed like it might drain off into this fund just for fees, revenue that otherwise is provided, that goes into other uses available to the athletic department. At 10 events at $5,000, that's about $500. I did a quick calculation on the street lights. The total budget for the street lights is about $435,000. That's on page 30, which works out to about $1,200 a night. So for $500, you can almost light the whole town for a night. And that was a rough calculation to say, gee, we think $500 is probably not too far off as a reasonable amount of money to budget per event. So that's where the $5,000 came from.
Mr. Desmond, you're recognized.
Just a point of information, there is a separate meter up there, and I'd be more than happy to show the Warrant Committee that meter anytime they want to see it. I happened to be standing there when Edison put it in, and I was very displeased because that meant we had to pay for the first event. But it is in and it is working. It's a brand new meter that was put in because the lights were put up. It's beside the 4 switches that operate the lights. And I really think, and I'd like to also mention that this amendment is unanimously offered by the school committee to ask for a $20,000 revolving account. This is to prevent us having to come back to town meeting, worry about capital expenditure by the town. This will keep the money in a revolving account and take care of the repairs that may need to be done several years after our warranty runs out up at Brooks Field. Thank you very much.
Mr. Lovely?
Mr. Moderator, Frank and I are on the same side in this issue. I'm president of the boosters, and I think my principal concern is that I don't want any set of circumstances to occur which will interfere with the plans which we have to conduct a reasonable number of night athletic events at Brooks Field. We're fortunate enough, due to the wonderful donation of the Copeland Foundation, to have those lights. And in order to make this perhaps doable, may I suggest a friendly amendment to my friend Mr. Desmond and suggest that we increase the recommended amount in the amendment from 20 to 10, much like the moderator suggested a moment ago. I just don't want to have a circumstance where halfway through the year some extraordinary event happens, we don't have the money to fix the problem, and the people that suffer are our young student athletes who had planned on a night event at Brooks Field, which may not seem to each of you to be a significant event, but I can assure you that from the young people's perspective, a night event, a night game of any sort, and we're playing lacrosse, football, soccer, and other events, it means a lot to them. So just by way of safety, I would suggest that we amend the amendment to 10,000 and see if the town meeting would authorize that.
We can go the formal route or the informal. Do you want to amend your, take a friendly amendment and move it to 10,000, Mr. Desmond?
I'm trying to be very friendly, and we had already requested $40,000, which I think is the maximum the state will allow you to have in any revolving account is $40,000. I was advised by Jack Sheehan, our assistant superintendent, that that should be a standard rather than have to come back and ask for more and more. So we had gone down to 20 in a friendly compromise to 20. I'm more than happy to get this article passed at 10. I haven't asked the school committee that. I really think 20 would be the right thing to do, and I think we should stick with the $20,000. It will perpetuate those lights at Brooks Field.
Now, are you going to 20 to 10 or sticking with 20, Mr. Desmond? I don't know which way you're going. Did you go for the 10? You staying? The school committee's going to stay at 20. All right. So we go to the recommendation of the warrant committee will go to a vote. All those in favor of the motion? No, they didn't. He didn't accept the 10. We're still at 20. Is that right? We're still at 20. Going for the full amount. Okay, this is starting to sound like a game show here. We're going to go for the full amount. We know the recommendation of the warrant committee, so all those in favor of the motion to amend the recommendation of the warrant committee to change the words as they appear in the second last line from, as they presently appear, determine a limit of $5,000 to determine a limit of $20,000. All those in favor of that motion to amend, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it, I think. Okay, so that's now amended to 20,000. And anyone else wish to speak to the recommendation of the warrant committee? All those in favor of the recommendation of the warrant committee as amended, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Recommendation of the warrant committee is adopted. And we're going to take a 10-minute break, and only 10 minutes here before we go to 58.